Howdy guys, my name's Shane. Today we're checking out the Boss Katana Artist 100 watt amplifier. The cool thing about this amp is you can switch it down from 100 watts to 50 watts to 0.5 watts for just practicing at home. The tone doesn't change that much as you switch it down either. Obviously 0.5 watts is going to sound quite a bit different, but we'll test that out against the 50 watt mode as well in the video, so stay tuned for that. This amp also has over 50 different built-in effects. All of the tones you're about to hear on this video, as well as in the intro clip, were just dialed in using the control panel on the front. None of it was hooked up to the computer to get that particular sound. I gotta say, the lead channel on this particular amp sustains beautifully. I really like it. This amp has basically 4 channels you can choose from. So you got a clean, a crunch, a lead, and also a brown sound. And then you can start stacking stuff on top of that in terms of effects. So you actually have basically a 4-channel amp, and then you've got effects that you can add to it. This kind of separates it a lot from other amps like the Mustangs and other amps on the market, because you essentially have a platform you can start with. A lot of those other amps don't really have their own sound. This does, so that's pretty cool. One of the main upgrades on this amp as well is the speaker. I think the speaker has made a huge difference to the tone. They already sounded great, and the old speaker was awesome as well. In terms of all the other modeling amps on the market, the Katana had the best speaker by a mile. This speaker is another upgrade in terms of tone. I think it really sounds great with almost any guitar that I've plugged into it that I own so far. Being that it's a 100 watt amp, you actually have quite a lot of volume and headroom on the clean and crunch channels as well, so you can wind this thing up and it will stay really clean. And that's one of the benefits of a solid state amplifier, is that big, full, clean tone at a loud volume. You can definitely get it out of this. What you're about to hear in this video is essentially me just going through what you'd hear if you were to walk into a shop and plug into one of these. I'm not going to hook it up to a computer to get any of the sounds in this video or in the intro clip like I mentioned. This is just plugging in and setting up the dials to get the kind of sounds that I like. I thought if that wasn't possible, then the amp wouldn't be any good. So my theory is if you can plug in and it sounds good straight away, it is good. And I've said that many times. So a huge thanks to Sky Music for letting me borrow this. I really appreciate it. It's a great sounding amp, and I like the fact that it's not too heavy either. I'll give you some more thoughts about my opinions about it at the end as well. Let's get into it. All right, let's get into it. I'm playing my Fender Telecaster loaded with a set of MJS custom pickups. We're going to test out some clean tones to start with. This is neck pickup on my Tele. Over to both pickups. Bridge pickup. Let's try the amp with a bit of delay now on the clean channel. Over to my Fender Standard Strat, same settings on the amp. Let's try this neck pickup. Let's add the booster. Let's give this a go. Like I mentioned on my podcast video about my first impressions of this amplifier, this thing plays itself. I don't even find the need to really hook this up to the computer. That clean tone with that booster / dirt tone on the top of it already sounds great. With the delay, I might actually just turn the reverb and delay down a little bit. But that said, the tone already is great without even having to hook it up to anything. Man, I dig it, I dig it. Over to the crunch channel of the amp, and I've just left the delay on as well, just for the moment. That was bridge, now over to neck. Delay off, let's try some chords. The sustain is absolutely crazy. Over to the lead channel now, and all I've done is just add a little bit of delay. Let's try neck pickup on the Strat first. Plays itself. Neck humbucker pickup on the Little Crow. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now over to the brown sound setting. I gotta say, on 50 watt mode already, it's really, really loud, and I only have the master volume at 12 o'clock as well. So this thing gets extremely loud. Let's try it now on 0.5 watts. I'm not gonna adjust anything in post so you can hear the difference in volume. This next part I'll adjust in post to be as loud as the previous part before the volume dropped. So this is still 0.5 watts. Bridge. It still sounds good even at that low volume, at least to my ear in the room. I'll find out in post how that sounds. Let's take a look at the cabinet resonance on the amplifier now. I'll play the same thing a few times so you can hear the difference. And that's vintage, it's been on vintage the entire time. Modern. and deep. Let's try the same thing again now on the clean channel. We're going to try the cabinet resonance. I'll play the same thing and just switch between them all. So here we go. The biggest difference is the modern and the vintage setting to my ear. The deep just adds a little bit more low end. It might not be coming through the video, but we'll see in post about that. But that said, I can hear a definite difference in the top end, especially between vintage and modern. It seems like it might be just taking off a little bit of the EQ towards the top end. That's about it, but overall, cool. So at least it's another option on there that you don't have to fiddle with too much if you don't want to use it. The amp also does a pretty convincing tremolo sound as well. Let's check this out. And now with some distortion and tremolo, let's try this. It sounds pretty cool. And now with the tremolo up a little bit faster. Thought it was going to take off. All right, now a sound that I've just dialed in that I kind of like. We're on the lead channel. I think this just plays itself. I've added a little bit of delay and reverb as well. Let's give this a go. Cool. So what are some of the pros and cons of this amplifier in my opinion? So some of the stuff I like about it is you start with 4 really cool channels and also an acoustic channel, but I don't own an acoustic guitar, so no test of that. But you start with a really good platform that you can add effects to, or you don't even need to use them. I think one of the cons of this amp though is it doesn't actually come with a foot switch. So if you don't already have external effects that you want to use into the clean channel or the crunch channel or whatever, you're gonna have to go buy that as well. I think that kind of sucks. It would have been great with this amp if they just included that as part of the package. I know other brands sort of include a foot switch, makes it more functional. It's just another thing to buy that kind of sucks. So I really wish companies would just start including foot switches with their amps. One of the cool things about the clean channel that I really like is you can turn it up really loud and it will stay clean. And one of the other great things about it is just by using the booster control, on the first notch you can get just that off clean tone that's usually pretty hard to get, and you can get that at any volume, so either blisteringly loud or quiet at home as well. So that's pretty cool. Another thing I really like about the amp is the way the EQ interacts with each of the channels. When I first got my hands on this, I actually commented and said, I think it kind of stores however you have it every time you switch between channels. But it doesn't. The EQ just actually responds really well to each channel. So if you go between the clean and the crunch, you're not going to have to run over to the amp and drastically adjust anything. It sounds pretty good, and I obviously put a bit of thought into how the EQ interacts overall globally with each of the channels. I think that's pretty awesome. One of the huge benefits of this amp is the master volume control. Not only do you get a power attenuator so you can go from 100 to 50 to 0.5 watts, you also get an overall master volume of the amplifier, which is separate to the actual gain and volume controls for each of the channels. So you can run it on 100 watts with the master volume anywhere you like, which really makes it cool. That's one of those things that makes this amp really good at almost any volume, running at almost any watt setting as well. So if you're running on the higher watt, you can also just turn it down and get a pretty cool tone. For me personally, I don't like having to hook something up to a phone or hook something up to a computer to get the most out of it. That's kind of what I like about this one. It sounds good straight off the shelf. I haven't done anything to this to get it to sound the way that it did in the video. Whether you like it or not is subjective as well, but I was actually really enjoying it. One of the cons could be that to get really into the amp and use different effects, you have to hook it up to a computer. If you have a problem with a USB port or something on your computer and it doesn't work, you're basically just limited to just using what's on the front. For me personally, that would be fine. I don't really care too much about that because I like the sounds I was getting. But if you want to use some of the other effects that aren't obvious, like an octaver or whatever else, then you're going to have to go into the computer and fiddle around with that. So just keep that in mind. And sometimes software, depending on how technically savvy you are, can take some time to learn as well. But that said, I think if you're going to be buying one of these amps, these are some of the things you should probably just be aware of as well. Overall, what do I think of this compared to the other modeling amps on the market, excluding stuff like the Kemper, which is more of a studio tool? I think it's really great. It could be the best modeling amp I've ever heard. I'm a huge fan of the older generation of these amps as well, but I think this one just sounds really, really musical. I loved it on the Strat. I think that's where it absolutely just shines, in my opinion. It sounded great on humbuckers as well, especially in the intro clip. The sustain was awesome. It's just good to be able to walk up to an amp, plug in, turn it on, and get, use it in a familiar way. So just using the EQ controls, none of these little menus and little screens and all that kind of stuff. You plug in and you're good to go. I really like the fact they haven't included an LCD screen on the front. They could have done that, and then that would have created a whole lot of other issues with trying to learn how to use it and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of just straight up functionality, it works straight off the shelf or out of the box, or however you want to say it. But to deep dive into this amp, you really do have to hook it up to a computer, so keep that in mind. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. If you didn't, give it the thumbs down. Let me know your thoughts of the tone of this in the comments. As per always, I always look forward to hearing from everybody. And yeah, let me know what you think. Overall, it gets the thumbs up from me. I really enjoyed using it, and I hope in post the tones sound as good as they do in the room, because in the room it sounded great. So thanks again. Catch you soon. See ya.